you need a real camera. Phones, things like that still aren't good enough to do it. So definitely get a real camera and definitely dress appropriately. They will have a lot of tips, but make sure to pay attention to those tips. Hand warmers and good gloves are critical. Alright, welcome back to another video. Melissa and I are here in a different hotel in Fairbanks. We actually switched hotels just a little while back. But this video is about our experience last night with Ron and Marquetta from Aurora Chasers. And they operate Aurora tours out of Fairbanks, Alaska. If you're here for this video and you just want a quick summary, basically the bottom line is just do it. Yes, it's a little expensive, but it's well worth it. Just do it, you won't regret it. And they are probably the best tour company here in Fairbanks. Yeah, they were wonderful.
What we booked last night, well, we didn't book it last night, we booked it far in advance.
Yes, book very far in advance. They are already booking for next spring.
Next fall, this fall and next spring.
Yeah, and we're sitting here March 22nd, so we're booking for next year, March of 2023.
So we booked a photography tour with the Aurora Chasers. At the time, I knew I was booking a photography tour, but then I forgot. And it really is geared more towards photography.
Yeah, they definitely cater to amateur and hobbyist photographers who want to come and photograph the Northern Lights. So they are set up with rental equipment, tripods, some rental lenses, rental camera bodies, things like that. We have our own, so we obviously didn't have to rent it from them. We did rent a wide, fast lens, which like a Sigma 14 f1.8 lens. So that's kind of what you want, is wide and very fast as possible.
So they ask every person what kind of camera are you using. So they're familiar with Nikon, Canon, Sony.
Yeah, the major brands are there for sure.
It's actually quite impressive. Their familiarity with all the different settings across all the different cameras. Mm-hmm. But they'll walk you through how to set up your camera to take the best Aurora photos.
So let's kind of start from the beginning. So they, of course, pick you up in your hotel in Fairbanks. All right, so we are about to head out on our Aurora Chasers tour, and it's about 10 o'clock, it's a little after 10 o'clock, and they're about to come pick us up. So hopefully we'll be able to see some auroras tonight.
The forecast is already looking better than it did yesterday, and we'll be with experts today, so crossing our fingers that we see it.
All right. Do it. And then we drive out to a location that they've scouted for the night. On the way out there, and we start just chatting about, what kind of cameras are you shooting? Are you shooting a Sony, Nikon, Canon, whatever, and what type body that you're shooting? Because then they'll know, okay, and they'll tailor it to your specific situation for different settings and stuff. So the very beginning part of the drive out there, they have an actual TV set up in their van, and the tours are maxed out at 12 people. So it's pretty intimate. They help you a lot. And so we start out watching the videos and we talk about why Aurora happens and the kind of science about it and kind of just the background about that. And then kind of halfway through, we start talking about camera settings, the different ISO settings, the aperture, shutter speed, things like that. So I won't get into the details, but I certainly learned something new, a few new things that I felt were counterintuitive, but actually worked out really, really well. So I won't kind of spoil their secret sauce, so to speak, but definitely I would not have gotten as good photos as I would have without having done the tour, because the night before, 2 nights ago, we went out just kind of on our own, and number one, the Aurora wasn't as active, but my camera settings weren't dialed in. So last night we get there, we drove about an hour outside of Fairbanks. Not sure exactly where we were, but we ended up at this parking lot that's part of the pipeline access road. So we ended up there, and then immediately when we get there, we were kind of finishing up our photography talk, and then we all get out, and then everybody was kind of just getting their stuff set up, but then we all looked up and boom, the Aurora was right there, already going.
It was already there when we pulled in. So there was no time for explanations of why you want your cameras set up a certain way. It was just get out, start taking photos.
Yeah, everybody started getting out, and we're all like almost in a frantic. Like everybody's looking around, and like, okay, we'll get all this tripod set up, and I walk off all the way to the distance. Melissa's like, "Where are you walking all the way over there for?" Well, I wanted to get away from everybody else, because they were kind of set up right in front of the van, and I was like, okay, let me get away a little bit.
And so Marquetta right away starts taking portraits of groups, because you never know how long their war is gonna last. So she was kind of frantic and making sure that she got everybody. I've seen like proposals, and we did a fun little thing as well, but she does that right away. Which is really nice. They take really great photos. She has a light that she'll light you up. So that's how, if you go to their website, that's how they get those great photos.
And just kind of to speak a little bit about that too, they're both professional photographers. They've been doing this for over a dozen years, and they live here in Fairbanks. They do this full time. And so, yeah, they were wonderful. They knew like everything. It was quite impressive, actually.
They kept coming over to help Alan with his camera, and they checked on every single person to make sure you were getting the shots that you wanted. And the great thing about going on a tour is if you get cold, you can hop back in the warm van. And
the van that they have is a nice Sprinter van. It's very well appointed and warm, number one.
Yeah. And I would say the biggest bonus is, or not bonus, the biggest benefit of going on a tour is they know when their war is going to start up, and they know when it's going to die down. So it was around 2 a.m. when Marquetta was like, oh, the BZ just dropped. We should see some type of show around like 2:50, 3 o'clock. So we stayed until 3. Unfortunately, the data was not accurate. Either that or we missed it. But that's something that we wouldn't have known on our own. We honestly, like on our own, we would have just waited there in the cold. So we learned some tips and tricks from them on how to kind of figure out if their war is going to be active.
Like the different types of data you're looking for, like the speed and the BZ,
and
wind and density and all this stuff. It's quite interesting, actually. It's a whole science behind it and how you forecast it.
They pick you up around between 9 and 10, depending on the time of year. When it's daylight savings, they push it back an hour. But we were picked up around 10:20 in the morning, or sorry, not in the morning, 10:20 at night, and then dropped off a little after 4 a.m. So it's a long night. I highly suggest you take a nap before going on the tour. You can take a nap in the van if the Aurora is not active, which I definitely did while we were waiting for that last show. But yeah, it's just more enjoyable when you're not tired.
If you're a photographer though, you're too busy trying to figure out all your stuff. Like Melissa was probably like hanging out in the van and stuff, but I was like actively figuring out how to do stuff. And I will say the one thing, so I shoot a Sony camera, shoot a Sony a7 III, which worked perfect. So a lot of other people had like the Sony a7 III or Sony a7S III. Which are like fantastic cameras for this specific purpose. The one thing that was cool was I was able to sit in the van and have the Sony app on my phone and connect it wirelessly to the camera and be able to still use it and control it and take photos of it, which was kind of cool. I was very impressed. That was very useful because I was staying warm in the van, but camera's still set up on the tripod outside and taking photos.
Overall, we had a fantastic experience with the Aurora Chasers. I highly recommend them. I think it's completely worth the cost, even for me who, like, yes, it's a photography tour, and even though Alan had the camera and I didn't have anything to do with the camera, I just thought that they were really great guides. Yeah, I recommend using them even if you don't have a fancy camera.
For the most part, any DSLR, any modern DSLR within the last 5-6 years would be just fine. So don't think you need like a super fancy camera or anything like that to shoot it. You need a real camera. Phones, things like that still aren't good enough to do it. So definitely get a real camera and definitely dress appropriately. They will have a lot of tips, but make sure to pay attention to those tips. Hand warmers and good gloves are critical. You need the liners for your gloves too, because if you have thick gloves, you're not going to be really able to adjust your camera settings. So definitely have the liner, because even if you have your hands outside the liner for 5-10 seconds, yeah, it's not fun. Anything else to add?
No, but I think I would recommend going on the tour very early on in your trip, because if you don't see it, they offer you to go standby another day if they have room on the tour. And also you will learn photography tips that you can use if you decide to go aurora hunting on your own,
which we are going to try to do tonight at a specific location. Yeah, no, I think definitely you want to go on a guided excursion when you're coming to see the aurora. If you're here, I would definitely suggest at least 3 nights. 4 nights would be best, just to give yourself the best chance. Weather is unpredictable, the aurora is unpredictable. So if you're really keen on seeing it, give yourself time. And Fairbanks actually I've been impressed with the town of Fairbanks. There's more here than I thought. So.
All right, that's all we have to say about the Aurora Chasers.
We'll see you in the next one.
I thought it was gonna be like kind of a living room setup. I don't know why I had that in my mind, but it's pretty nice. It fits. I'm looking inside right now. It's kind of behind us, right here. And it's probably, what do you think? 75 to 100 people, something like that.
It's pretty modern. It looks like it was
built specifically for this purpose.
Yeah.